Welcome to Mach 10 Sports in this August 5th, 2023 episode. I appreciate you joining us. Let me send this quick email to our guest that'll be joining us tonight real fast before we get underway. We will get this party started, man. A lot to talk about. Let's see. Send it right there. All right. We're ready to rock and roll, guys. Ready to rock and roll. So like I mentioned, guys, it's September 5th, 2023. We just wrapped up week 1 of college football. Week 1, it's crazy. It's here. A little disappointing, though, for the SEC. A little disappointing for the SEC, to say the least. I mean, 1-3 in the big games. We had Florida, South Carolina, and LSU all taking losses. South Carolina and LSU both taking losses to ACC schools. 1-3, like I mentioned in the big 4 games. We usually talked about the opposite of that in the SEC. It's usually SEC's 3-1, sometimes 4-1. We'll break 3-1 or 4-0. We'll break down all 4 of those big games. I'll give you where those games were won and lost, and discuss the other 10 games in the league. On the flip side of that, though, a lot of SEC teams heading into week 2, taking the show on the road. Vanderbilt heading to Wake Forest for a big non-conference matchup. Ole Miss heading to New Orleans to go face the Tulane Green Wave. I'm sure there'll be a ton of Ole Miss people down there, especially the South Mississippi Ole Miss fans, just Ole Miss fans in general, kind of taking over the Big Easy. Texas A&M heading down to the 305, returning that trip to Mario Cristobal and the boys against Miami. And then Auburn taking a cross-country road trip to Cal, the Bay Area. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It's also SEC Power Rankings heading into week 2. I'll give you that 1 through 14. New segment we're breaking in today, debuting it. Where I was right, where I was wrong. Where Dave was right, where Dave was wrong. I'm going to give you some thoughts from this past weekend where I was right. I predicted it right. And some thoughts that were not so right that may have myself rethinking some predictions heading in from preseason predictions heading into week 2. So that'll see where that was. Then Cruz Oxenrider from Barstool Sports will join us to talk a little week 1. And then also his plans. Hey, he's heading to Tuscaloosa. Like I always see Cruz in Tuscaloosa. He's in Tuscaloosa, heading up for the big Texas game. It should be an absolute media frenzy. Everyone's going to be there. The Big Noon's going to be Big Noon will be Colorado. Right, game day will be there. The Barstool crew, a ton of media people will be there. So we'll be there talking about that. Then we're going to talk about a little Making Money Thursday. The results was not the weekend we were hoping it'd be. 3-4. We're going to get better. Give me a few weeks to get a feel of these games. My eyeballs are bleeding from going back watching all 14 SEC games. Give me some time. I get a feel. Give me an extra week. We're going to be good this week. Week 2, that's us. That's on us. Week 1, 3-4, we don't accept that, especially after a 500 record. Week 0, week 3 and 4, we're going to be better. Week 2 and 3, we're going to be better. I promise. It's my promise. That's Tim Tebow's promise. Here we are. But let's start as we always do in the show around the SEC. Nick Saban came out and said, defensive backs, Malachi Moore's got the star position. Jalen Key start at the safety position this past weekend against Middle Tennessee State. They both went out with injuries. They weren't disclosed. Nick Saban said they're day-to-day. He said they're not end of the year injuries at all, and season-ending injuries. They're day-to-day, so we'll keep you updated on that. But that'll be key heading into the Texas weekend. Texas got some weapons on the outside. Xavier Worthy, Jordan Whittington, A.D. Mitchell, who people who follow the SEC are familiar with. The Georgia receiver had the big catch against Alabama in the national championship game in 2021. Malachi Moore and Jalen Key will be out. Will have effect on the game. How much? I'll tell you throughout the week, but just wanted to bring that up. Auburn heading out Thursday, Hugh Freeze says, to the Bay Area, getting adjusted to time. Hugh Freeze was open, said he did not like the cross-country road trips. Let's just say I don't anticipate John Cohen and Auburn scheduling a bunch of West Coast games when Hugh Freeze is the coach. Heading 2 nights out. That's what Texas A&M does every road trip. Just being honest with you, working there in 2018. That's a Jimbo Fisher thing he brought from Florida State. A&M leaves. They practice on Thursday night. They'll go eat, fly out Thursday night to wherever they're going. If it's Birmingham to play Alabama, if it's Starkville, if it's Oxford, anywhere. Like this Thursday, they'll be heading to Miami on a trip, and they're playing on Saturday. They don't go the night before. Something happened, I believe, when he was at Florida State. Players getting in trouble, staying out way too late than they should. So he wants the team together, focus. It can be long road trips. When I was there, we went to Starkville, stayed in Starkville for 2.5 days, played a night game. We got there Thursday night. You get them there Thursday night, kids probably get overfed. So the big ordeal Friday. Friday's full forever. Auburn's going to feel that same way, though, because Auburn plays at 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time Zone at Cal, 7:30 local time. So Auburn's going to have a long week. Hugh Freeze trying to get them as late as possible. Sounds like they're on that A&M schedule. Get in late Thursday, have all day Friday, get adjusted, and have a full day Saturday as well. So that'll be interesting in that. LSU, this is interesting here. I talked about this. We'll talk about it in the game. Thought they lost their edge a little bit. Kind of quit in the fourth quarter. This quote I'm about to tell you, LSU offensive lineman, according to Florida State defensive lineman Joshua Farmer, Miles Frazier, right guard, I believe, for LSU, was telling him he was doing a good job the whole time. Let me pull up the video for you real fast so I can share that to you. So you just get a real feel, and I'll paraphrase it after. Share it. All right. This is courtesy of Jordy Collada, who does a lot of good stuff for LSU.
Oh, yeah, it was over with. I think number 70, it was like, man, y'all good up. Oh, yeah, it was over with. I think number 70, it was like, man, y'all good up front. When he told us at the second half, you don't tell no D lineman that. So it was over with. When we heard him say that, number 70, it was over. We like, oh, we got him right where we want him. So it was over. You don't tell me that, because I'm gonna oppose my will against you all game. So.
I mean, what is that? What is that? If I'm an LSU fan, I mean, how true it is, let's take it with a grain of salt, but why would Farmer make that up? The defensive lineman, number 44, if you miss it, he's claiming number 70. Didn't say Miles Frazier by name, but come on, putting two and two together. It doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to figure this out. Number 70 for LSU is Miles Frazier. Apparently, Miles Frazier was telling him, hey, good job. You guys are good. Farmer and the boys were sitting there being like, man, we're eating this up. We got these guys beat. They're already telling us we're good. I mean, you watch it. We'll talk about that game in just a moment. LSU got manhandled in the fourth quarter. Really, in the first half, really, I mean, a lot of personal fouls against Florida State, but they imposed their will. It's a little embarrassing. If I'm an LSU fan, I'm a little embarrassed about that. I mean, LSU, back when I was in high school and college, LSU defensive linemen were starting bar fights. I mean, these were bad dudes. Like, I mean, you had Glenn Dorsey, Marlon Favorite, Arden Key. I know it's an edge guy compared to a defensive tackle, but I mean, or an offensive lineman. And then I'm going to go to the offensive line side. I mean, LSU used to have some nasty dudes on the offensive line as well. I mean, LSU had interior trench guys that used to go start fights, not tell the opposing team they're doing a good job and they're good players. LSU has lost a little bit of an edge, in my opinion, from a total chip on their shoulder being just a nasty team. Just a nasty team. I mean, their DBs were just getting ran over, treated like little boys in the second half. It was bad. It was embarrassing. I was really disappointed in LSU finishing that game. After Malik Neighbors slipped to start the fourth quarter, Jaden Daniels threw the interception. LSU tapped out. They tapped out. No mas. Threw in the white towel. So just want to get that clip out there again, paraphrasing. Number 44, Farmer, the defensive lineman for Florida State, stated that number 70, Miles Frazier, who's the starting right guard for LSU's offensive line, was telling him throughout the game, telling Josh Frazier, defensive lineman for Florida State, good job, man. Y'all are really good. Florida State was just eating that up. They knew they already had LSU beat mentally from that standpoint. That's nothing you're used to seeing from an LSU team, because usually LSU is a bunch of nasty, just creatures on both of the offensive line and defensive line. It's disappointing to hear. Moving on a little bit around the SEC before we move on to preview some of these games. Remember, Cruz Oxenrider coming over, going to preview the media frenzy that will be in Tuscaloosa this week. But then Dan Mullen will be announcing the Egg Bowl this year. It's like a WWE segment Vince McMahon would have put together. Dan Mullen, I forget who else is going to be with him. Dan Mullen will be the color guy. He's going to be calling the Egg Bowl in Starkville this year. I saw a bunch of Ole Miss people not real fired up about it. Dan Mullen's part of the reason that, I mean, it'll be a miracle if he says Ole Miss up there. Remember, he used to just call him the school up north. It's an interesting, fun dynamic. I'm excited to see it. It's a long way away. I'll be a dad by then, but I'll be interested to see that. Billy Napier did say they were going to try to be more committed to the run in the future. Game got away from him, had to start throwing more. I'll be interested to see how Florida, not this week, but next week when Tennessee comes to town in the SEC opener, what their strategy is offensively. Are they going to stay committed to the run? Because I think Tennessee's front, their defensive line with Rodney Gardner leading the way, is a good unit. Tennessee's defense is a little underrated, only average giving up 24 points last year. But people remember the Alabama-South Carolina game, them getting towards, it's a veteran unit. But I'll be interested. Do they stick to the run? Because if let's say Tennessee gets out there 14-0. How does that change it? Again, it's easy to say you're going to stick to the run and be committed to it. You're only averaging 3 to 4 yards a carry, and it's getting late in the first quarter, a little uneasy in the swamp. But I'm really interested in that game. A lot of dynamics. We'll talk about that one later as we get closer to it. But let's get right to it. We're going to preview those 4 quickly. I know it's Tuesday. We usually do the show on Monday, but we're coming back from Labor Day. Let's start off quickly preview, since we want to talk a little bit about power rankings, the betting review, kind of getting into this week. Let's get into it. LSU, Florida State getting the 45-24 win. LSU got physically beaten up on Sunday night, in my opinion. Reminded me of a boxing match, just blow by blow, and then LSU just falling in round 11 or 12. I mean, the late hits from Florida State added up over the fourth quarter. I said it all offseason. LSU is not a deep football team, especially on defense. But let's start on offense. Offensive line run game. It was bad. It was not good. I know John Emery was out, but the group as a whole was a bit underwhelming. Josh Williams, Trey Bradford, Noah Kane. I know Logan Diggs will be in there when he gets back from healthy. They don't really have a dude in that unit. That's okay. I mean, Jaden Daniels is their leading rusher right now. To stop LSU, you got to contain him in the pocket and make him beat you. Must rush. Kirby Smart started calling it that at Alabama. You got to must rush. You got to keep him in the pocket. What come to mind is Tim Tebow. So they did a lot in the 2009 SEC Championship game against him. Not saying Jaden Daniels is Tim Tebow, but you want to keep him in the pocket, make him beat you with his arm, kind of spy him. Do not let him get out and beat you with his legs. That's what you got to do. I'm going to make Jaden Daniels prove he can beat me consistently with a passer. And I think him and LSU's receivers right now are not on the same page, including Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Kyron Lacey, and Aaron Anderson. He doesn't have the connection he had last year with Kayshon Boutte and then even Jeray Jenkins last year. But it's just the initial thoughts on the LSU offense. It's early, but defensively, where was Harold Perkins? Man? Rushed him 7 times. Brought pressure with him 7 times. That's it. He's your best pass rusher. You had to get past. You had to get pressure against Jordan Travis. You just did. Defense, man, there's just not a deep unit, but especially on the front 7. And I know Mason Smith's going to come back. But where this game is lost, let me show you. All right, so just to give you context, this is right after the turnover. Malik Neighbors slips. Jaden Daniels throws an interception. Florida State's up 7. Start of the fourth. Kind of felt like LSU's wilting away a little bit. Florida State goes into this 2-back. They kind of started towards the end of the third quarter. This 2-back running formation, LSU had no answer for it. I mean, look at my guy Jacoby and Guillory here. Sitting there about on a 0 shade 1 tech, just getting bullied right there, dude. I mean, this was pretty much the start of the fourth quarter. This was it. This was the downfall. That pick turned it over, and then Florida State started imposing their will against LSU. I mean, just to rewind it here. And Florida State, the offensive line, firing off the ball, washing them down, hat for a hat there. First down run, baby. That's 14, 15 yards right there. And it was over after that. I mean, 31-0 run Florida State went on. They went to the 2-back formation, and it was over. LSU just did not have the edge, did not have the fight to come back and fight through that. Showing it one more time here. Again, I mean, look at the interior here. I mean, Jacoby Guillory in here on the 1-no technique right over the center. Just an undersized guy. He can't go for 4 quarters. That's why Mason Smith and then Mekhi Wingo played his tail off. 18 played his tail off. Those 2 guys, Mekhi Wingo and Mason Smith, who, by the way, Mason Smith hasn't played football in 2 years, dang near 2 years, really, contact football. He's a good player. Let's see what he does with a full season under his belt with contact for the first time in a while. Those 2 guys, my point being, Mekhi Wingo and Mason Smith has to stay healthy. I don't trust Jacoby and Guillory. I think Jordan Jefferson's a depth guy. This is where that game's going to be lost. And for LSU, this will probably be two more losses if it doesn't get fixed. It'll probably be 2 more losses if it does not get fixed. It just is what it is. That's just the truth. Jacoby and Guillory can't be playing that much. It's just he's not that good of a player. Is what it is. Again, not a deep unit, but we said that if you've been following us here at Mach 10 Sports. The secondary, it is what it is. I told you that. It's not DBU, man. I mean, you got Zy Alexander, you got Deuce Chestnut back there, you got Sage Ryan playing the nickel position. And then just total mismatches. Major Burns over on Keon Coleman in the slot. LSU, there's a lot of mismatches teams can go take advantage of against LSU in the secondary. And I like Matt House a lot, the defense coordinator for LSU. He's yet to figure some ways to hide some of these deficiencies in the secondary, but it's the whole secondary. LSU's got to start getting guys, keeping them, recruiting the high school kids and develop them through this stuff. But they did with Corey Raymond. I mean, it's not a shot towards anybody at LSU. It's just, it is what it is. You can't just go plug and play with transfer portal kids in the secondary because in today's time, there's a lot of explosive offenses that like to throw the football. Communication is big, and if they've not played together and don't know the system, communication is going to be lacking because these guys are going to be overthinking and they're not going to be comfortable. They're not going to be comfortable. It's going to be a paralysis analysis. But overall, to wrapping up this game, Florida State's a good football team. There's no denying it. I have Florida State in the Final Four. I have them winning the college football playoff, I should say. I have them winning the ACC. I feel very comfortable after watching Clemson last night and saying that. But give Mike Norvell credit for assembling a physical, athletic football team who looked like they wanted to go dominate LSU again. I know some people are like, well, the score was worse. I mean, dude, the second half they dominated. Also, Mike Norvell, I think he's probably the best offensive play caller in the country right now. You throw in Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin. But I think right now Mike Norvell called a fantastic game Sunday night. But it's too early to give up on LSU. Do they have problems like most other teams do, like we discussed all offseason? Absolutely. But let's let them get through September before we start forming season-long opinions. Let's wait till they go at Mississippi State in 2 weeks, then at home in Arkansas. Let's let them head to Oxford. Let's finish up those 3 games, get through the month of September to really know where we're at. But I do see some deficiencies. I don't know if the secondary can get fixed. LSU's got to get that chip back and be more of a nasty bunch. Florida State just brought it to them and handed them their lunch on the back end of that. But real quick, let's get cruising here right here. We'll come back to reviewing this past weekend. We'll come back to the Florida-Utah game. We'll come back to the South Carolina-North Carolina game and Tennessee-Virginia game. Let's get cruising here. Cruz, what's up, brother?
What's going on? How are you?
What's up, man? Doing well. I can see the Chicago skyline back there. How's everything?
Oh, it's good, man. It's not too shabby. So I'm excited to be back in down south days.
That's good, man. That's good. So tell us a little bit for the people who aren't familiar with us. Just tell us your background, where you went to school, how you got started, getting in media, getting with Barstool. Just tell us some stuff about you for the people who don't know.
So it kind of started about I'd say probably 2020, 2019. Just started really active on Twitter, Bama Twitter, and the University of Alabama for undergrad, and a lot of people that I also went to the University of Florida. To begin, I grew up a Gator, like a huge shocker or anything like that, and then just found myself immersed in what we know Twitter for everyone to know, and then it just took off, and then I started a podcast in 2020. My first guest was Nick Saban, Kristen Saban, and kind of just took off after that, and I've been very fortunate to have a lot of really cool opportunities to continue to grow I worked with Tim Tebow and did a lot of stuff wise and media wise. And then I'd say about February of 2022, I got an offer to kind of starting with Barstool from a social media standpoint. So they were looking to New Orleans division. For those who know, diehard Saints fan, since we were in bags on our heads, and it just kind of took off, and it's great. And I've got a chance to meet a ton of fantastic people like Mincy and Megan Betts, and just helping with the fantasy football podcast. I do. I work with the music podcast. I try to be incredibly involved as much as possible. I'm here in Chicago. I was in New York for a little bit. New York wasn't really my thing, and then but I love it here. I'm so happy in Chicago. I never thought I would be here. Really, and honestly, I think it's one of the best things. I don't think it would take a lot for me to go back south. I'm very happy up here in the Midwest.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about. I saw you at this bar in Chicago. I remember the old Alabama bar used to be the Houndstooth. Tell us a little bit about this new bar. I saw you were on social media at this place in Chicago.
Yeah. So the Houndstooth. A lot of people know who have been to Chicago and gone to a Bama game. It was the Bama bar. They actually ended up closing their doors in, I believe, May of this. Really sad. I will say that their new one called Home. It's in the same neighborhood. It's further down the road. It's in Wrigley. Great location. It was their first weekend here, first game day, and I thought it was well. The crowd was good mix of old and young. ton of TVs everywhere. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like Houndstooth in Tuscaloosa a little bit, and got that like because Houndstooth here in Wrigley was it was very tight and like very fish. So, but it was fun. It was like a store. It was a great crowd, but the one here, almost home here, great vibes. I like it a lot. I'm involved with the Chicago Association here from marketing, social media, and things like that. So trying to help where I can in limited free time I do have. But I think good things for the bowl. I thought it was a weekend. I know this weekend they're going to kill it with Texas and everything. Like it's going to be big for them. So. Be for the company, the great people. A lot of the people who were Houndstooth went to go work for Almost Home. So it's a lot like it's still.
You there, brother?
Oh, did I lose you?
No, you're good now. I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Perfect. So it's very similar to kind of how the Houndstooth was.
Yeah, it was. So it's a newer Houndstooth. Like that's the way that people should. Which I think it was. I think it was time for a newer location, expand bigger, make it feel crowded. It really does feel like a good mix between sports bar, night bar, and I think it's the food fantastic. Maybe like some of the best wings I've had since I moved to Chicago.
That's good stuff. So anybody heading to Chicago, get with Cruz here about where to go in Chicago if you're an Alabama fan. Cruz, give us some thoughts. Week 1, man. Week 1 of college football, full weekend, Thursday through last night. We're an SEC show, but you can give us thoughts in general on college football. Just give us a couple of thoughts, what your takeaways were from Week 1.
Yeah, I had a few. So, we'll get Bama out of the way. I thought, not really shocked with what we did. Everything heard and been told and have read about going into the offseason. We're going to try to more fiddle style of play. Thought the O-line looked really good. Thought Jalen did what he was supposed to. It was great that he had 5. The number one number I was worried about with 0 turnovers. It's the only one I really care about.
Yep.
I was a little bit surprised though with Tyler Buchner playing over Ty Simpson. That was the only thing I was like a little bit surprised of. I thought Ty was solidifying himself as number 2. Not Buchner, but look, I don't know more than the guys. I'm not even going to pretend I know more. But that was the thing. I thought we played well. Over, I'd probably give us a minus or an A. I thought we. Colorado's got to be the story of the week. It was awesome. I the few people, at least like active on so like I thought this move was going to be a great in Colorado. I thought the number one thing to be really appreciative that Deion go to a bigger program than Colorado. Like if he would have gone to like a Florida State, a Florida, a Miami, like a big time program, it would not be good for the rest of college football because Deion Sanders would then handpick any guy that he wants, and it would be between Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, and Lincoln Riley. Like that's now the level college is going to be on. And I thought they came out there. The lights were big. I thought team played well. I mean, it was just overall, it was a great game. Obviously, yeah. It's not like it was just like, hey, like it was a fluke. Like it was back and forth. It was incredible. Obviously, I wanted some improvement from our defense, but I mean, like right now, you can't help but root for Colorado. Clemson was the other one. Good. That program has just gone downhill. What to say? Because you think about it, like they college football playoffs in 2020, 2019, basically like the Bama stretch from like 2015 to 2020, they made the college football playoff year, and their season's already done. Maybe for the second year again in September.
Yeah.
It lost week 1 last year to Georgia, and then they lost I think like week 3, week 4 to NC State last year, and they're also they also have to go play Notre Dame, State. They have NC State. That I don't know how Clemson gets on. I mean, congrats to Duke. But I really am excited to see like what else is going to happen this year. I was really impressed. Florida State was my winner of the week. They look like the deal, and I was afraid of that. I was wondering if the lights were going to be too big, but Florida State looks real deal in the AC, and I picked the playoffs before the season started.
Yeah, I have Florida State in as well. But Clemson just, for whatever reason, the skill guys are not what they used to be. They're just not what they just did not. They have not recruited to that extent. And I mean, they can get in on a guy like Keon Coleman if they would go be a little bit more open in the transfer portal. I think going into next year, the Dabo's hands gonna be a little tied, or the people with the big donor people are gonna be, dude, you got to go venture that. I know you don't like to dabble in it, but just the OKG, our kind of guys just don't really work anymore, dude. I get it. They do not have the skill guys they used to. It's
no.
You saw it come in, and now it's in your face. Florida State, you're right. That's the most impressive team. I don't even know how there's a close. I mean, Colorado could be made to take, but for sure, Florida State. I think most people, especially after seeing Clemson last night, were like, I feel pretty good about Florida State winning the ACC, unless North Carolina.
I do like UNC. I think I think he's the second best quarterback in college football. Caleb Williams. I think he's the real deal. I like the team they have built around them. With Florida State, I mean, they're the definition of you can win with the transfer portal. Like they looked incredible. The guys that they got over the last, not just this past season, but like the autumn before that. They're Travis coming back for another year. I think is going to help their draft pick. I mean, that kid is a stud. I think the defense plays well. They have great passing. They have great skill guys. But they look like an old team. Like that's what they reminded me of. Now with Clemson, there are only two people I feel on Clemson's team. That would be Will Shipley, which God bless, did everything he could the other night to try, and Peter Woods, the elite freshman talent, who's the next great one. At one point we all thought he was probably my guy. End up flipping last minute. So stayed at Clemson. Like other than that, I don't feel anything. Cade Klubnik is not who he's going to be. I thought last year the problem was lack of offensive creativity in DJ. And I watched DJ at Oregon State, and he looked pretty good against a decent San Jose State team. And you got Riley's brother, Garrett Riley, and at OC, it's supposed to be the hot commodity coming in. A bunch of people in Georgia people wanted him on staff and as to be the next OC, and so we're thinking, hey, Clemson's gonna light it up off offensively. And honestly, I thought Tom Reese is the better hire. Right? I know it's only week one, but right going off of eye test, I feel pretty.
Absolutely. No. All good takes for sure. Now we got a couple more questions. Again, Cruz Oxenrider joining us for the show. Give us a little preview. We're about to get into it right now of the Tuscaloosa weekend. Cruz, give us a little blueprint to your Tuscaloosa weekend. You're stepping foot in Tuscaloosa County, Tuscaloosa. What are we doing right when you get there? What does this trip entail from when you get in? I don't know if you're getting in. Are you getting in Thursday night or Friday?
I know I'm flying out of Chicago at 6 in the morning. I'll be in Birmingham. I think 10 a.m. Go ahead and get there a day early. I know I've had it for a while. I both knew that Barstool was coming. This was two Tuscaloosa. This was going to begin. So. First thing I'm doing, so I'm getting ham. First thing I'm doing, drop my bag, have lunch at Henry. I need some Irish gold sauce in my life.
That's your thing, I see.
Yep. Gotta do it. Bop around. I love going back to Tuscaloosa because I've been very fortunate over the last couple years with this whole social media job and pursuit, and a lot of people from businesses to the university to teachers and friends. They've been very supportive. Even people in the athletic program have been very supportive of me. So I always love to go back, support their local business like Christopher Mobley, Vintage, Innisfree. Any business that has ever been to me, I will always fully support. any way I possibly. So I'm definitely going to Thursday, the calm before the storm, see some friends, and then Friday just get ready for. It's going to be a long weekend, man. It's going to be game days there, SEC Nation's there, Bars there, Josh Pate's there. I'm sure every one of them going to be there. I think it probably is going to be the biggest game weekend in Alabama football history. At least I can think of maybe Bama LSU in 2018 was pretty massive, but everything I've heard and told is going to crush it. Like I feel bad for anyone who's not going to be in town this weekend, because I think this has a chance to be the big day weekend in Alabama football history.
Probably since 2011, honestly, when I was in school there. I think you were in their school. The LSU quote-unquote game of the century.
Yeah.
That kind of hyped it up. But again, But again, though, you didn't have the media outlets that you have now. That was just traditional media. So you're right. I bet it does put it over the hump when you add in, like, Josh Pate wasn't around back then. Barstool isn't what it was now or what it is now. So like you said, it keeps going on. SEC Nation wasn't even a thing. So, yeah, for sure, I would agree with that. Now, talking about that game, Cruz, you talked about how you're getting in. We got to get the Irish gold, get to Innisfree, go support the local places. What are some things you're looking forward to ahead of this specific matchup at 6 o'clock on Saturday night?
I really want to see us. I really want to see us open up the playbook creatively a bit. I know we didn't show a lot last week. We didn't really have to, which I'm okay to Texas. I went back and I watched the Texas game a little bit. Texas didn't look all that impressed me, but a part of me really feel like we're looking towards us, and I get that. I mean, they're a young team, they're a hungry team. I think they have a chance to win the Big 12 this year. My thing is how are we going to open up the plates a much better Texas defense than we played against Middle Tennessee State. Better I want to see us. Really get with the RPOs with Jalen Milroe. I loved what we were doing off and running the ball, motioning, which is something I haven't seen in under Bill O'Brien. And I really want to see us. I love motion. I love the deep balls. I really feel like Jalen has a chance to really shine in this, and I feel like we're definitely holding a lot of our RPO, a lot of our read options, and I'm okay with that. So I want to. That's what I'm really looking forward to. The second thing I'm looking to is defensively. Evan Steele going up against Steve Sarkisian. I want to see adjustments being made. Like the one thing that drove me insane about last year is that Golding refused to make a game. And Steve Sarkisian is a master game planner, especially when it comes to X's and O's of side of things. He's great of misdirection, eye candy, and it's a lot like the teams that have given Nick Saban defenses trouble in the past, like Hugh Freeze and Gus Malzahn and things of that nature. So I really want to see how we can adjust on the fly. I know Key Malachi Moore, they're nicked up a little. I was really impressed with Crowns as a true freshman. Just they're great Bama. But those are like the two I'm really looking forward to. I don't think. And I really want to taper expectations to people going into this game. This isn't going to be a blowout. It's not. Like, we're not going to blow Texas out. Just not from a standpoint of that much better than them. I think Texas is a good team. I think we're a very underrated team, which is crazy to say. Number 3 team in the country. But Texas is a good team. I see us winning this game. But I don't want people to think we're just going to go in and win by like 25. It's not. Texas goes in and just lays an egg, and I don't expect them to. Unless, like, something, God forbid, Nears gets hurt and Arch Manning comes in. Arch's first playing time in Bryant-Denny on a Saturday night. I mean, that's like nightmare scenario.
No, for sure. To me, from going back to watching Alabama this past weekend, I think Bama's got an advantage on their defensive line against Texas's interior offensive line. I think they got pushed around a decent bit against Rice. I think Bama's got a key matchup. But on the flip side, I think Texas is finally recruited where the guys, when they started recruiting Will Herman's kind of last year, are kind of seniors now. They're Alfred Collins. There's a couple other ones too that would be pretty good players. Vernon Broughton is out there just from being my time at A&M. I just remember them off the top of my head. From being older guys, they're pretty good now too.
Oh
yeah. It'll be a good matchup on the line of scrimmage. How does Texas defend Jalen Milroe? I'm not saying he can't. He's going to beat me with his arm. I'm going to force him to be. Now, if he does, tip of the cap to you, dude. You beat me. But it'll be interesting to see their whole game plan. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Last year, Texas' defensive game plan was it was executed to perfection. They knew the holes in our offensive line, and they blitzed. They did a ton of zone blitz scheme. I mean, God bless Bryce. It seemed like getting whacked every single play. I would like at that, and it was so hot. I don't know if you went to that game. Last year.
I didn't go, but I heard it was hot.
Top five hottest events. I mean, it was miserable. It was 11 a.m. kickoff. Which is criminal, by the way, for this game. Like that. Like,
everybody was pissed about that last year. Remember, I was like, "Why the hell is this game at 11 a.m.?"
No sense. It was criminal. And two, I loved that game atmosphere in Austin, Texas. I'm glad they're joining the SEC. I'm glad they're going to be a part of conference because their fans were a great city. The stadium is fantastic. It fits SEC. It really does. We like to joke. Like Texas at like horns down, like I'll always do horns down. Yeah, but it's they're going to be a fantastic addition. I think this week is gonna. Now I will say this: we are a better football team, and I know it's crazy to say because we lost Bryce and we lost Will Anderson and Gibbs last year. Better football team this year, top to bottom. Yeah. I don't question it. Using Bryce not fun or Will Anderson. I like Dallas Turner. I like Kool-Aid. I like Jace McClellan. I like our offense. I like what we have. In secondary. I feel like we really needed a culture that came to coordinators and found a great balance. Evan was a hard nosed Nick Saban, old school era kind of guy, and Tommy Rees is a kind of guy who will whip goals, but also is going to run Saban's off perfection. And I'm really excited about this. So Texas, I know they're confident. They probably should have beat us last year, and I'll admit that. Probably should have.
Yeah.
But if they think going to come into Tuscaloosa, take care of business, and put up a fight, they got another thing coming. I think honestly, my player game is going to be Jim McClellan. I think he's going to have over 150 yards rush touchdowns.
Yeah, hell, had the big run last year. It's really one of the few explosive plays they had on offense last year. But Cruz, man, I appreciate you joining us, dude. You got to have some Irish Gold wings for me. Have a beer for me here at Innisfree. Dude, I appreciate you hopping on. If you don't already follow him, give Cruz the follow at The Real Cruz Ox. Has his hands in numerous things from a media standpoint. Him with Barstool, he named it all. But, dude, I appreciate you taking the time back there, dude. Awesome apartment in the background. Dude, you have a freaking blast in Tuscaloosa. I'll talk to you in a bit, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Be good, man. All right, Cruz Oxenrider worked for Barstool Sports. Has had his hand in a lot of media. University of Alabama grad. Me and him are actually fraternity brothers. I'm about 2 or 3 years older than him. I think he was in the 2011 class. I was 2009. But no, we were pledge brothers. Lambda Chi, great dude. Does a lot of good stuff. Again, go give him the follow on social media. I just gave you his at The Real Cruz Ox. Does a great job. He'll be in Tuscaloosa this week. He's a real Phil. Does a really good job on social media. He'll probably be camped out at Innisfree all weekend before heading into the stadium. Like he mentioned, Barstool is going to be there. Josh Pate's going to be there. SEC Nation's going to be there. College Game Day is going to be there. A lot of media people are going to be there. Just thought he'd be someone good to bring on and just tell you kind of how the scene with Tuscaloosa. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I don't know if the audio was a little messed up on his end, but I could hear it. I know it's a little choppy, but I hope you understand that. And I hope you understand we also had to jump around from the reviews of weekend one just to get him on and get him out of here. I didn't want him sitting on there for an extra 10 minutes. But remember, I just reviewed the LSU Florida State game. LSU just did not have that edge on them. Just finishing up what I already talked about. Let's give them until September. They still got the Mississippi State matchup, Arkansas at home, and at Ole Miss through the month of September before we start judging. I still think they dropped 2 more games. I had them go into the season losing to Florida State, losing at Mizzou, and losing to Alabama. It's not unrealistic to think LSU's 9-3 because I don't think the secondary is that fixable. It is what it is. This isn't the NFL. You're not bringing on free agencies. You're not anybody from free agent. You're not bringing in Darrelle Revis, and he's going to come help LSU. Say that they are what they are. They say Drum was playing nickel. Major Burns is covering Keon Coleman. That is just an athletic mismatch right there. Matt House, great DC, been with the Kansas City Chiefs, was with Mark Stoops at Kentucky. He's put together good defenses. But again, you can't figure out how to handle Harold Perkins by the middle of the season. You got to utilize him in those situations where you know your secondary is struggling. And a secondary, like we said last week's best friend, his best friend in the world, it's a pass rush. LSU failed in helping their secondary in that point. But wrapping up that one, heading to Charlotte, you saw it too. North Carolina, South Carolina. North Carolina getting the 31-17 win offensively for South Carolina here. Same old with the South Carolina offensive line. 9 sacks against a defensive line last year. I think it was finished 120th in negative yards created. The defensive line from North Carolina, that was. Is it 120th in negative plays created? It's in plays for negative plays behind the line of scrimmage. That's bad, man. That's bad. I didn't really believe in South Carolina's offensive line. I kind of wanted to see it. We'll talk about that and where I was right, where I was wrong here in a minute. But 9 sacks. Let's get to the film, man. Where it was won, where it was lost. Let's get to it real fast. Right here. Setting the situation for you. 3rd and 5. Fourth quarter, 8:53. South Carolina's trying to make a comeback, down 2 scores. They need this right here. Just could not pick up twists and stunts all day long, dude. This was bad. I mean, they averaged negative 2 yards per carry. I mean, just coming in free rusher right there. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing, man? I mean, what are we doing? I mean, tackle. Come on, man. Who's the biggest threat on the outside? My God, like Spencer Rattler running for his life. And I didn't think Spencer Rattler played that bad. I thought him and Xavier Legette played really well. I actually did for themselves. Running for his life. That's a big 3rd down. Puts him in a tough situation on 4th down. It's not good. Running for his life all game, man. The offensive line just getting completely whipped against a unit. And to give North Carolina credit and Gene Chizik credit. Gene Chizik, their defensive coordinator, Auburn fans remember him, former head coach at Auburn. We don't have to go into that. They had a good game plan. Give the Tar Heels credit. They did have a good game plan, and they improved. I mean, they're not going to finish 120th now. Just hell off. This game alone is going to help them. Let's run it back one more time here. Right tackle. I don't know what he's thinking about. Maybe the post-game meal. Is he getting Chick-fil-A? I don't know here, but the biggest threat's to the outside and just lets him come a free rusher. Spencer maybe could have got it out a little quicker to the running back out of the backfield just real quick. They probably pick up the 1st down, if I'm being honest, if he gets out quick. But, dude, he's thinking the play's going to develop a little more than that. I mean, that's bad. That's bad. It's not giving your quarterback – that's not giving your quarterback and your offense a chance at all. At all. That's bad ball right there. It just is what it is. It's just bad football. And that's where that game was lost right there. It's easy. 9 sacks, and you averaged yards per carry, negative 2 yards per carry rushing. If you can't run the football, it doesn't matter if you have Spencer Rattler, if he's running for his life all season. It doesn't matter. But again, I didn't think this was on Spencer Rattler, really. Did not have a bad stat line. Didn't throw a touchdown or an interception. I think he was, 20 for 29? It was something like that. He didn't play bad, dude. He's just running for his life. 9 sacks. 9 sacks. Let's move to the defense for South Carolina. Defensively, it wasn't bad, but the defensive line thought it'd be better. Maybe I didn't give North Carolina's offensive line, who returned 4 starters, enough credit, but I thought guys like Tonka Hemingway, Jordan Strom would step up. And the secondary for South Carolina, young cats were not bad either. They forced a few key interceptions that kept South Carolina in it, but they had a chance specifically at the end of the half to get off the field at times and just could not come up with a big stop. Defense really wasn't an overall concern. It was definitely the offense. But overall, the key to this season, like we mentioned before the season, will be the offensive line. Can they improve? Does Shane Beamer go to 3 young cats, guys like Trey Babilotti, Marquis Anderson, and Trevon Ball, some reps? But do you get those guys reps when you look at your schedule coming up? 3 of your next 4 games, hear me out here, At Georgia next weekend. Mississippi State comes at home, and it's looking more and more like South Carolina has to have that win. And then you go to Knoxville next week, a team that you ruined their season. They're going to be pissed off. Don't see you winning at Georgia, at Tennessee, Mississippi State potentially at home. It just depends. But you may want to go the youth movement with those three guys, but are you really going to throw them into that environment? Are you going to throw them at Georgia as their first start? You throw them against Mississippi State, who has a pretty good defensive line. You throw them against Tennessee on the road against a senior defense, a veteran defense. I don't think so. But if not now, when? That was a very poor performance, one of the worst I've seen in a long time from South Carolina's offensive line. It was bad. It was bad. It was bad. Not all as bad with South Carolina, but they're the team I'm most concerned about after this past weekend because, I don't think the offensive line can get fixed. I don't know. And then 3 of your next 4 games are very tough. That Mississippi State game at home in Columbia, it's becoming a must-win for South Carolina to get to even have a remote chance of getting to 7. Now, the Clemson game doesn't look as hard as it did, and that's so far away from now, late November, Thanksgiving weekend in Columbia. Who knows what both teams will be looking like at that point, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel good about the Gamecocks after that because that was not a good defensive front that they faced. They're going to face a lot better defensive fronts in the SEC East. And then playing Texas A&M out of the West and Mississippi State both have good fronts. Could be a rough year for the Gamecocks, but dropped to 0-1. Yeah, that Mississippi State game, man. That's going to be a massive game for them. Transitioning to Nashville. They go Tennessee, Virginia. Tennessee getting the 49-13 win. Offensively, looked like a first game for the Vol offense at times. But with that being said, they still scored 49. But there were some lulls midway through probably about the first quarter to the second quarter where you had 3 straight drives that ended with a punt. I guess they're not very good Virginia defense. Just Joe Milton, he is what he is, man. Sometimes I feel like he leaves some points on the board. He'll overthrow a receiver, and it kind of just gets in his head. He doesn't wash it away. Now, he didn't turn it over. At 2 touchdowns, I think he played fine. But again, I think that's what you're going to see with Joe Milton. So it's going to be interesting when he goes on the road. And like I said, next week in Gainesville, that's interesting to me. When he goes to Tuscaloosa, that's interesting to me. I think when he's on the road, it'll be interesting. I think at home, he's going to be fine. He's going to be playing within his confines, playing with confidence. But it's when he comes out, maybe in Tuscaloosa, like I said, maybe in Gainesville, they go 2 and out their first couple of series, and they're struggling. He's missed the deep ball. Is that affecting him in the whole game? Because remember, he's not going to be Hendon Hooker. Things just did not get to Hendon Hooker. Not saying Joe Milton's going to be a turnover machine, but he's got to let each play have a life and history of its own and get at it. Sometimes I think he gets in his head a little too much. But this is where I did like Joe Milton. I think this is where this game was won this past weekend. I'm going to bring it up right here. It's our last where it was won, where it was lost. I think right here. Sorry, I zoomed it out. So situation, 4th and 5, Tennessee's first drive, 12-14 left in the first. I like this. I like it right here. I'm about to show you.
See, last year, top 12 in major college football on 4.
So what we got right here is offset right here. This is what I like about here is he takes what is in front the defense gives him. Dylan Sampson right out of the backfield. Just take that check down. Nothing's open, Joe. Nothing's open. Check it down right there. Good job. First down, get in the end zone, touchdown on 4th and 5. Tennessee, there is openings. There are abilities to create yards every play for Tennessee's offense. They have that built in right there. You just got to be patient. I think Josh Heupel does a good job of training his quarterbacks to be like, hey, it's okay. Just drop it down here. Let him go pick up 6. Ends up being 12, 15 yards for a touchdown. That's where Joe Milton, I think, he's got to get out of his head in big games where he has to go win the game. I don't think he has to win the game. Let the system win the game because it's going to produce points because Josh Heupel's proved it. He's proved it. I mean, Josh Heupel's also going to go lose a game he shouldn't once a year, I think. But his offense is going to go put up points. You just got to trust it. Joe Milton's just got to get out of Joe Milton's head. I think sometimes he overthinks things. But to be fair to him, he cares. I think it's a little bit to it. So show you one more time. Let's get back to it. That's what I love about Joe Milton right here. Just check it down here. I was watching this live. I was hoping they'd pop it in the end zone here. Nothing's there, Joe. Maybe right there at the top the numbers for the first down. But, he's looking to his left. He's looking to the field side of the formation. Checks it down to the running back. Good ball. Leads him upfield shoulder. Lets him carry his momentum up the field. Run past 23 here. Carries momentum in the end zone. Touchdown. That's what Tennessee can do that. Joe Milton is going to be fine. They had 3 straight punts, but they still put up 49 points. So it is what it is from that perspective. Moving on, though. defensively. I like the Vols defensively, man. They're a veteran group. Now, did I think Virginia would really challenge Tennessee? No, I don't think they did. I didn't think they would. I mean, they lost their quarterback, Armstrong. Just this was an offense that didn't score more than 20 or 21 points or more 7 straight weeks last year, where the FBS average is 28. I mean, held them to under 200 yards. I'd say that was pretty good. That's good against any offense. Good against there. Remember, this is a veteran defense. If they stay healthy, this could be a top 3-4 defense in the entire league. Just telling you. Overall, though, next week's game against Florida, it's going to be a test. Will it be a difficult test? I think it's to be determined. How does Tennessee and Joe Milton react on the road against a team in Florida and a fan base that will feel like their back is against the wall? Because they're 0-1. It's the first SEC game. They beat Tennessee. All's forgotten Utah. This is really their last chance before that pressure is really up on Billy Napier. Not saying he's getting fired, but 1-2 start. And if Tennessee goes and embarrass them, that's not going to be good. I expect Florida to have a real organized, real plan, real thorough game plan on how they approach Tennessee. Remember, I think some of these stats are a little irrelevant, but Tennessee's only won in Gainesville at the Swamp 2 times in the last 50 years. And that has nothing to do with Joe Milton, Jabari Small, Jalen Wright, Brew McCoy, Squirrel White. None of those guys were on the team then. Jalen McCullough, guys like that, Roman Harrison, they had nothing to do with those guys. Those guys weren't even born or a thought. But it's in Tennessee, traditionally, it's been a house of horrors for them. It's just been a house of horrors for them. I don't know what else to say. I'm interested, man. In this game, I'll be interested to see what this opening line will be. Both teams should win this weekend. I mean, Tennessee plays Austin Peay, the Fighting Govs, and then McNeese State heads to Gainesville. So both teams should be rolling in off wins. But again, Tennessee, I like where Tennessee's at. Some people were down on them, but hey, some first game jitters. Let's don't overreact. I like where Tennessee's at right now. And then before we move on, Florida versus Utah, Thursday night. This has been discussed. 24-11, Utah gets the win. Offensively, Florida didn't have a terrible game plan, in my opinion. Again, they had to abandon it, but the offensive line was putrid, especially Damian George. I mean, 0.6 yards per carry. Yeah, it's just not good. He had 5 penalties himself. And they have a solid running back room with Trevor Etienne and Montrell Johnson. But it's a unit that gave up 5 sacks. Game just got out of hand. Graham Mertz, thought he played okay, about what I thought, missed on some things, but you knew that about him if you'd watched his Wisconsin film. I mean, he was as good as I thought he would be. Nothing worse, nothing better. They were horrendous on third down, 1 for 13 on third down. Lack any real skill, guys. Ricky Pearsall, the Arizona State transfer from last year, good player, but he's not a number 1 receiver. They need guys like Eugene Wilson to step up. A guy like Eugene Wilson needs to step up for him. An elite athlete. He's been returning kicks for him last Thursday. The offense, man, has to be a bit more organized. I expect it. I do. In their next big game against Tennessee, I expect a little bit more organized on offense. But the offensive line, putrid. They're not going to get any better until that improves. Defensively, thought they were solid. Take away the first play, and Florida settled in enough to win this game. First time DC in the SEC, Austin Armstrong coming over from Southern Miss, I thought did a good job. But overall, what is the strength of this Florida team? What is? Defense is okay. You got some young talent. But after that, I mean, it's the running back room. But the offensive line is just not good enough where it won't help maximize the ability of that running back room. You know, Barry Sanders and Adrian Peterson there, but you definitely got winnable SEC guys in Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne. But I think got to give – you know what I underestimate too? You got to give credit to the culture of Utah. Coming in with their third-string quarterback, Cam Rising's out, Bryson Barnes get the start. They really don't miss a beat, dude. That's a credit to Kyle Whittingham and that Utah program. Just win anyway, anyhow. And again, they had all offseason. I think they knew all offseason Cam Rising was not going to play for this game. So that benefited them. It wasn't like Cam Rising went out this week and they got to go play next week and they only have 5 days to really start preparing. You know, like that's kind of the difference. But again, they were organized. In Utah, you could tell they thought, hey, we're playing without our third string quarterback. We're playing without our best playmaker at the tight end position. But we're still going to win this game. So interested to see what Florida looks like with their backs against the wall against Tennessee coming to town next week. McNeese this week, they should handle them. McNeese is not a good football team. Got beat pretty bad by Tarleton State this past week, but next week's a big one for Billy Napier. Not necessarily you got to win, but you cannot look bad. I think Florida's going to come out like a dog backed into a corner. Tennessee better be careful. I'm not high on Florida. I predict them to go 4-8, finish 6th in the East. This is Florida's kind of last chance. Last chance. So Florida's got a week to get it together. What will they look like next week? Because that first week, not a good performance. But some other week one reviews. Missouri got a 35-10 winning at South Dakota. Wish Missouri got a little bit more push against the FCS team. Looked like with Brady Cook in the first half, they played well. When Sam Horn came in the second half, went a little backwards, declined a little bit. So want to see that. Middle Tennessee State this week could be a trap game. I'm telling you, Missouri be dangerous. I don't know how much damage Alabama did physically to Middle Tennessee State, but Kansas State comes to Missouri next week. Missouri's going to be pissed about what Kansas State did to them last year. Total trap game, in my opinion. They better be careful against Middle Tennessee State. But they got the win, 35-10 against South Dakota. Kentucky got a 44-14 win against Ball State. Tell Mark Stoops, I went back and watched it, left some meat on the table offensively. They had a defensive score, special team score. It made the score worse. They definitely have to continue to improve on the offensive line. They will. They got time with their schedule coming up. But Ball State kind of knew how to scheme them up a little bit defensively. But again, I told people, don't overreact to Kentucky here. You kind of thought it with Liam Cohen coming in here, new quarterback Devin Leary. It's going to be a bit of an adjustment, but Kentucky gets the job done. Arkansas, 56, Western Carolina, 13. Western Carolina is not any good. I thought there were some offensive line issues that are going to be a little bit of adjustment for Arkansas. They'll probably get them fixed. Defensively, they're flying around. That's what you wanted to see. A fast start. That's what Arkansas got because they struggled with that a lot last year. But they were flying around the football, making plays, playing with their hair on fire. That's what you want to see in the first game. The game got moved up from 3 to noon. But again, you're not going to get challenged by Western Carolina much. But Arkansas, good showing. Can't really tell much there. Ole Miss 73, Mercer 7. Can't tell a lot. Still not high on the Ole Miss defense, though. 73 points, though, offensively on air is very impressive. Ole Miss is going to be good on offense. Let's call it what it is. If they get Caden Prieskorn, the Memphis tight end, transfer back, they will be fine. Defensively, I just do not like the athletes, man. A lot of cinder blocks on some people's feet. There's not a lot of twitchy athletes in that secondary, that second level. There's really not outside of Santarine Perkins. That's it. I mean, Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste, heavy-footed guy. Just go back and watch that first game. Me and my guy Tyler Siskey were watching today. Ole Miss, when they start playing faster, athletic guys, they could be in trouble. More athletic guys on the edge could be in trouble. I'm just telling you, I'm not a fan of the Ole Miss D. I know people are going to be, they only gave up 7 points. Well, Mercer, go watch the game. There weren't a lot of athletes out there. There just weren't. Ole Miss is going to have to get it fixed. I'm kind of liking the over. I think Ole Miss is going to beat Tulane this week, but I'm kind of liking the over this week. Auburn heading to the Plains, got a 59-14 win. I was very impressed with Auburn's offense. Looked like they had a game plan. Peyton Thorne, the quarterback from Michigan State, looked very serviceable, winnable. Is he an elite player? No, but kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Chris Todd in Gus Malzahn's first year at Auburn in 2009 with Gene Chizik. Kind of fit the system, was just good enough. They're going to mix in Robbie Ashford, who brings a different dynamic in the red zone. Let's see if that holds up at Cal this week. Defense still got a lot of question marks. The game could be close this week. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Mississippi State 48-7. Thought Mississippi State looked really good in the second half. I think if you flip the second half to the first half and they're up 31 or 28-0 at the half, I think some people are talking a little different, but I think Mississippi State came out and dominated that second half. Defense looked good. Southeastern, not a bad football team. I thought for a first game head coach, Zach Arnett, some struggles in the first half, but if you swapped them, I think people would feel a little different. I wasn't too upset with Mississippi State's performance. Georgia, 48-7 over UT Martin. Struggled to get pushed a little bit. Not to be surprised, though. They're not going to be overly fired up to go play the Skyhawks. Had a lot of guys out. Lad McConkey was out, a couple other guys. But I think I was just a little bit disappointed in Georgia not getting more push. People are going to be on Mike Bobo thinking the offense is going down. Thought Carson Beck would be a little better. I'm just going to watch that one, though. I'm just going to watch that one away. They get Ball State this week. I mean, Ball State just getting brutally punished, playing Kentucky to open up, and then, hey, that's not enough. We're sending you to Athens. But Georgia gets the 48-7 win over UT Martin. Texas A&M, I thought they looked pretty good on offense, man. 52-10. Thought they did enough. You're not going to garner a lot from that. New Mexico is going to be improved. Find out a lot about Texas A&M this week. Thought the defense was flying around, looked better in the run game. But, again, you're not going to be able to tell until after this matchup against Miami this week. Vanderbilt getting a 47-13 win over Alabama A&M. Struggled a little bit in the first half. That was disappointing. They're 10-point underdogs this week, so we'll see how they do at Wake. That'll be a big matchup. Vanderbilt's offensive line has to get better. They have to get better. It could smell trouble. I was feeling a little more confident with the over-under 3.5. Remember, social media, I bet my life on it. So 3.5 win total. It's going to be close. It's going to be 3 or 4. I don't feel as good about it as I did a couple of weeks ago, but this will be a big one. These next 2 weeks will be big for Vandy. Need to split the Wake Forest UNLV game. Need to. But Vanderbilt got a 47-13 win, 2-0 the Commodores are. Then Alabama, 56-7 win over Middle Tennessee State. Thought Alabama looked about as good as they could have hoped for. Need to limit the secondary injuries. I know that's outside of their control, but Jalen Milroe was about as good as you could get. I mean, you're going to have some crazy throws you see by him or some crazy improvision plays you're going to see by him, but you're also going to see some bad with him as too. Who's going to be calling these protections out for Alabama? Because Bryce Young would get them in the right spot. Is it going to be Seth McLaughlin at the center spot, which I think it's good to have him settle in, have Darren Dalcourt over there at right guard, or is it going to be Jalen Milroe? Something's going to have to happen. The snaps from McLaughlin got to get better. A lot of them were at his feet. The one he took for a touchdown went right by him. Those have to improve. That can't happen this week. That's a negative I'd take away. Thought the offensive line would get a little bit more push, but hey, you know what it was? Jalen Milroe it looked like this system, people want to judge Jalen Milroe off the A&M game last year, but Bill O'Brien did him no favor. They didn't adjust to his skill set. And I get it. Within a week, like we talked about with the Utah injury with Cam Rising, it's tough to get a game plan for a backup quarterback in a week. You're changing everything for everybody. We got all offseason to implement plays that play to the specific player's strengths like Jalen Milroe. Tommy Reese is going to be able to do that. Amari Niblack, the tight end, not coming out of nowhere. If you fought Alabama football, you know he's got a high ceiling. Is he going to be able to do what an Alabama tight end hadn't really done since O.J. Howard? I mean, he looked a little bit like what Jaleel Billingsley should have been. If I'm being honest, it just came to the top of my head. It's what Jaleel Billingsley should have been. That's what people were hoping it. Alabama was on defense, though. I thought Alabama played very fast, very physical. I like the brand of football I saw them play with. They had an edge, man. They had an edge. Watching Texas against Rice, Texas better be ready because I think Alabama's going to come out and punch them in the mouth. I think Alabama's got a major advantage on the interior with their defensive tackles with guys like Tim Keenan, Jaheim Otis, Justin Boy against Texas's interior offensive line at the center and 2 guard spots. And also Texas, if they want to throw those now screens, get it out real quick, Texas's receivers, Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell struggled a little bit blocking Rice's corners on the edge. Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold and those guys are going to come hit you in the mouth. Alabama, you could tell. I told you, you'd find out a little bit. You'd find out some. But Alabama, what you did notice, they were flying around. Guys like Deontay Lawson, going to be a big-time player for Alabama this year. Probably be up for the Butkus Award winner. Shocker, an Alabama player linebacker. It feels like it's been a while since that. But, dude, Alabama's flying around on defense, hitting people. They're playing with a chip on their shoulder. I like it was about as good as a first game with so many question marks that you could have hoped for if you're an Alabama fan. Alabama looked really good, man. 56-7. But again, we talked North Carolina, South Carolina. We talked LSU, Florida State. It's kind of putting a bow on week 1. But let's get to week 2 power rankings. Heading into week 2 power rankings. Leading it off, Vanderbilt coming in at 14th. Wanted to see a little bit more against Alabama. Didn't like it. I don't really like the feel going into this Wake Forest game. They're 10-point underdogs. Maybe they'll shock me, but they're coming in at 14. Florida, no movement there. Has to improve a lot. I don't see that offensive line getting that much better. As uncomfortable as I feel about the Vanderbilt over 3.5 win total, I feel very good about my 4 to 5 win total for Florida and then finishing 6th in the East, respectfully. 12, South Carolina, 9 sacks, averaging negative 0.2 yards against a defensive line and a front that was not good at all last year. One of the country's worst and created negative plays. Just flat out bad. Just flat out bad. Do they go youth mooted offensive line? I don't know, but they better figure it out quick because they got a tough schedule coming up. Here. It could spell trouble for the Gamecocks. They're coming in at 12th. Missouri, sitting there at 11th till they get the cornerback situation figured out. I thought the offensive line would be a little bit better against South Dakota. It's 1 week, though. Not going to overreact, but I think I have to have them coming in here at number 11. Mississippi State, I wasn't as down on that performance. I saw it for what it was. I thought they came out and dominated the second half. Like I said, if you flip-flopped it, people be talking different. Thought it was a great opening win for Zach Arnett. The Bulldogs coming in at number 10. Ole Miss coming in at 9. If you score 70 against Air, that's impressive. So I'm going to give Ole Miss credit there. The defense, I'm telling you, lacking the athletes. I'm telling you. The Ole Miss defense is not a good unit. It's just not. It's not going to be Pete Golden's fault. A little of it's scheme, but for the most part, the personnel's not there, man. Personnel's not there. The defensive line was getting pushed a little bit by Mercer. Well, and again, I know people can make it was 7 points they only scored. First play. Go watch the full game. But Ole Miss coming in at 9 because I like the offense. The offense is always going to be good with Lane Kiffin. Again, 70 points on air is impressive. Auburn at 8. I thought Auburn had a very organized offensive game plan. That was the first time on offense you felt like Auburn actually had a plan and everybody was on the same page. You never felt that way under Harsin. You never really felt that way Gus's last 2 years. Defensively, need some big improvement. This Cal game, I'm telling you, Cal's a little better than I think people think. I mean, people were predicting them to lose to North Texas last week. Cal kind of handled business. Some of that was on North Texas, but Cal handled business. It's going to be a tough trip for Auburn. But I got Auburn coming in number 8 after week 1. Arkansas coming in at 7th. Tough to really figure anything out with them, but they started quick, put the Catamounts away early. KJ Jefferson looked solid. Offensive line needs to get shored up. We won't know much about the defense probably until they go to Baton Rouge here in about 2 or 3 weeks. But Arkansas coming in at number 7. Kentucky, Mark Stoops will tell you they got to get better on offense. Defense, special teams covered some things up to make the score look worse than what it is. But I still like Kentucky. They got a couple of weeks to get this thing rolling before they get that big matchup with Florida at home in a couple of weeks. So I like Kentucky at 6. LSU, not going to drop them too far. 5th, they played a really good Florida State team that I think is going to win the ACC and be in the playoffs. But LSU, man, they just don't look nasty or physical up front, man. In the secondary, I just think you're only going to be able to put a Band-Aid over that. It's the best way to explain it. You're only going to be able to put a Band-Aid on it. Matt House, good defense coordinator, nothing against him. They personnel-wise have to get better on the back end. They just do. Jaden Daniels, our team's just going to start being like, hey, Jaden Daniels, we're going to must rush you, put a spy. You're not beating us running. You're going to beat us with your arm against some receivers you're not overly comfortable with right now. But on offense, I think LSU can get it figured out. I think they can be good enough on the offensive line with a group of running backs that are solid to create a run game, still incorporate Jaden Daniels. Him and the receivers, I think, will ultimately get on the same page. Defensively, they'll figure out what fits them best. Again, if you're an Alabama fan, don't be laughing too much because I think this LSU team is going to look a lot different than early November. Still, it's no time to panic. But LSU sure as heck looked like a 9-3 team on Sunday. No time to panic, though. No need to panic, but they're coming in at number 5. Texas A&M coming in at number 4. Couldn't really tell a lot there. You'll find out this week, but they did look different on offense, more creative with Bobby Petrino. Kind of Weedman looks comfortable. I think the defense is going to be improved. We'll really feel good about A&M, how they feel after their trip to the 305 this weekend. Tennessee coming in at 3. You know how I feel about them. It's a senior team, senior-led team. It's all going to come down to Joe Milton. Joe Milton just cannot get in his head, not let one play affect his confidence too much because he's a very talented guy. He's a talented guy. But I think there's going to be some highs and there's going to be some, how do you miss that throw? It's not going to be Hendon Hooker, Tennessee fans. I'm telling you. It's nothing against Joe Milton. It's more of a compliment towards Hendon Hooker. But I think Tennessee came in number 3. Alabama, number 2. I think Alabama looked really good. Not ready to move them up to number 1 yet because I don't think they've earned that yet. Let's see what they look like against Texas. If they win, look good against Texas, they could certainly move up in the power rankings next week to number 1. And then Georgia. Some people may be on me for this. I didn't think Georgia looked overly impressive, especially the offensive line. I thought we'd get more push. But again, they're the 2-time reigning champs. They ultimately did handle business. They had some guys out. You're really going to see Georgia turn the lights on, I think, in that South Carolina matchup, and not this weekend, but the next weekend at Sanford State. That's going to be their first real one where I think Kirby's like, it's go time, boys. First SEC game against a coach he doesn't like, Shane Beamer, and they're on their heels. They're reeling South Carolina right now. He's going to go put it on Shane Beamer if he can. And I think that's going to be when you're really going to see Georgia come out and look themselves at what you're traditionally used to seeing Georgia look like. But week 2 power rankings, Georgia number 1, Alabama number 2, Tennessee number 3, Texas A&M number 4, LSU number 5, Kentucky number 6, Arkansas number 7, Auburn number 8, Ole Miss number 9, Mississippi State number 10, Missouri number 11, South Carolina coming in at 12, Florida 13, and Vanderbilt wrapping it up at 14. Moving to week 2 schedule, just to give you the schedule, we're not going to break this down until Thursday's episode. Vanderbilt heading to Wake Forest, early morning first kick. This will be an interesting one. Vanderbilt is a 10-point underdog right now, one of the few underdogs in the SEC this week. Vanderbilt needs this one. Ball State heads to Georgia. First back-to-back tough games for Ball State right there. Georgia should still continue to iron some wrinkles out. Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky heading to Lexington. Kentucky's going to have some time to get some things figured out, just like Georgia. They need to improve offensively. Ole Miss at Tulane. You got Ole Miss right now. 7.5-point favorite against Tulane. 7.5-point favorite right now. Interesting. I kind of like the over in this one right now. Top 25 matchup here. Ole Miss should take over New Orleans from a fan standpoint. Tulane getting a win against a good South Alabama team last week. Kind of surprised me. Ole Miss, I think Tulane's going to put more points up than you initially thought on you. I do. I think this will be a fun game, though. Mid-afternoon game on ESPN2. Texas A&M coming in as a 4.5-point favorite at Miami. We'll be able to tell a lot about both these teams. We'll be able to tell a lot about both these teams. We'll get a preview on Thursday. Kent State at Arkansas. Arkansas still trying to iron out some wrinkles. Austin Peay at Tennessee, we mentioned early, before Tennessee goes to Gainesville next week. We talked, this is where game day is. Number 11, Texas at number 3, Alabama, the big one of the weekend. We'll preview that one on Thursday. Middle Tennessee State, I'm telling you, coming in for a trap game at Missouri. Missouri better not be looking ahead to K-State. I'm just telling you. Grambling heading to LSU, get right game for LSU. This should be get them back on schedule. McNeese heading to Florida. Florida should handle business there. An interesting one here in the Pac-12, Pac-12 SEC. We got 2 Pac-12 SEC matchups here. Arizona. I mean, you got Arizona coming in as a, what do you got here? I got it on my sheet. Minus a 10-point underdog. Arizona coming in as a 10-point underdog to Starkville. I think Arizona's going to make a bowl game here in the third year for Jedd Fisch. I like the quarterback, Zane DeLaura. It's going to be an interesting matchup for Mississippi State. I don't know what to really expect from Mississippi State because she's only Zach Arnett's second game. We'll preview it on Thursday. This will be an interesting one, though. SEC Network, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time Zone. Furman at South Carolina. It's a get-right game for South Carolina. They'll have a lot of people out, so this game could be closer than people think. And then finally, probably the most fascinating game in the league this day on Saturday, Auburn at Cal, 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time Zone, 7:30 p.m. local time in the Bay Area. How does Auburn handle that? Cal's better than people think. Jake Spavital's the OC at Cal. I think let's see what they do against that Auburn defense that I think has a lot of question marks. Auburn looked real organized on defense this past weekend. How do they carry that over to a West Coast road trip? I mentioned it around the SEC earlier. They'll be leaving Thursday. How do they get acclimated? I think this can be a fun matchup. Auburn's favored by 6.5 right now. So early lines for SEC games heading into the weekend. Vanderbilt, a 10-point underdog heading to Wake. Ole Miss, a 7.5-point favorite at Tulane. Texas A&M, a 4.5-point favorite at Miami. Arkansas, a 37.5-point favorite against Kent State at home. Alabama, a 7.5-point favorite at home against Texas. Missouri, a 20.5-point favorite at home against Middle Tennessee State. Mississippi State, a 10-point favorite against Cal. And then Auburn, going on the road across country, a 6.5-point favorite at Cal. All right, first segment of the year, where I was right and where I was wrong. Really not for the negative. Where I was wrong. So there's going to be a few segments on me, just where I ended up being wrong on a couple of things this past weekend and where I ended up being right. Where I was wrong. Florida and Utah. But reality, I was more impressed with Utah. I'll be honest with you. I was more impressed with Utah, for being honest. Florida, I mean, it kind of was what I was. I took them late. The Cam Rising thing got in my head. But again, you can't ever discount the Utah culture and Kyle Whittingham. He's been there for so long, established such a great program. Been there since Urban Meyer left to go to Florida. Since 2005 was his first year. Florida just so, man. They're probably about what I was. I just underestimated Utah. So I was wrong on Utah, really, not more on Florida. I have Florida going 4-8. Don't really believe in them a ton. But I was really just wrong on Utah. Underestimated them. Also, South Carolina, I don't even know if I'd put this in this category, but I thought the line of scrimmage would be better. I thought it'd be improved, but I was wrong. Completely wrong. Didn't expect 9 sacks. Didn't expect to give it up negative or only average negative 2 yards per carry. Did not expect that at all. Colorado, I was wrong on them. Tip of the cap to, I know it's not an SEC team. Tip of the cap to Deion and the boys coming in, getting the win at TCU. A little underwhelmed with TCU, but a win's a win. They got a game against Nebraska this week, Colorado. It's a big – is that going to be – they're going to be too high, too emotional coming back for that game? Who knows? But I was wrong on that. So those were the three things I was wrong on. Really not really Florida. I felt I was right on Florida. Really underestimated Utah, though. South Carolina. I thought they'd be improved on both lines of scrimmages, on the offensive line and defensive line. Severely disappointed, especially with the offensive line. Totally wrong on that. Then tip the cap to Prime, and then totally wrong on Colorado. We'll get to that in a minute. I took TCU the minus 20.5. But where I was right, Tennessee just being that much better than Virginia. This game was never close. Very confident on this one. Very confident. We'll get to this one in a minute, just with the bet, my betting picks here before we get you out of here. Alabama going to be better on defense. I was right on that. I feel very confident in that. Guys like Deontay Lawson, Justin Boy, who else? Dallas Turner, a bunch of guys just in the defense just flying around. But Jalen Key, Malachi Moore for the guy hurt, Terrion Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry. I like Alabama's defense this year. It's going to be probably the best defense Alabama I think's had in the past 4 to 5 years. Best 4 to 5 years, in my opinion. I think Peyton Thorne is going to be fine under Hugh Freeze. I said that last week. I thought he looked fine. I thought he very winnable. I think they're going to play with a 2-quarterback system, and I think that's fine. I think it's smart by Hugh Freeze. Let Peyton Thorne go between the 20s and then mix in a little bit Robbie Ashford in the red zone. I think that'll be awesome. I think Peyton Thorne's going to be just fine in that Hugh Freeze's system. Hugh Freeze has proven he's won with a lot of quarterbacks. Then finally, LSU's not a deep football team in secondary is concerned. I was right on both those. LSU doesn't have the depth in the front seven. They need to stay healthy. Guys like Mekhi Wingo, they get Mason Smith back, need to stay healthy. Secondary, they just don't have the personnel, man. The 2 starting corners are not SEC guys. The nickelback, Sage Ryan is not an SEC nickel. He's not an SEC star. It just is what it is. But, so where I was right, totally confident Tennessee was going to handle Virginia. Alabama's defense was going to be much improved this year. It would be probably the best defense they've had in 5 years. Peyton Thorne going to be just fine. Just fine. The windows are going to get tighter as the competition plays. It's in Big Ten secondaries. Windows are going to get tighter, but I think he's going to be just fine. And LSU, just not a deep football team. Secondary is a major concern. So that's where I was wrong and where I was right. That's going to be a segment every Monday show. I know today's Tuesday, but we pushed the episode back a day. But here, let's review it. Before we get you out of here, Money Making Thursday review. Went 3-4 this past week. That's not good enough. We're 5-6 for the season if you're going back to week 0. Let's go review the picks. I took TCU minus 20.5. They lost the game straight up. We talked about Colorado, tip of the cap to them. I was just not impressed with TCU. They were not a very good football team, especially defensively. It was bad. Thinking back on it, way too many points for a team that lost too much. That's on me. Here's one I got, though. My Great White Buffalo guarantee of the week. I got Tennessee minus 27.5. I took that one to the bank on Thursday, baby. Before the game was even finalized. Gave that pick to somebody I was on the beach trip with. He was thanking me. It was easy money right there. My Great White Buffalo guarantee. I'm going to give you that every Thursday. The Great White Buffalo guarantee of the week. That was Tennessee plus 27.5. Knew that would cover before the game even started. Indiana plus 28.5. I'm proud of myself on this one. Ohio State. Quarterback position with Colin McCord, Devin Brown will be real interesting. I thought them coming out with new quarterbacks at Indiana, conference opener, I thought it was too many points, and it was. It was. Tom Allen and the boys took their time, tried to have a chance at the end, ultimately got away from them, but, hey, they stayed within 28.5 points. Thank you, Hoosiers. I just thought Ohio State could start off a little slow in that game. Took South Carolina plus 2.5. Major mistake. We've talked about that one. I took Illinois minus 9.5 versus Toledo. They kicked a last-second field goal to win. Thought I'd see a little bit more out of Luke Altmaier and Brett Bielema. They go to Kansas this week. Did not cover for me. They did win. Not too upset about that one. Just like I wouldn't have been too upset about the Indiana if they didn't cover 28.5. Illinois took a chance on it. Just didn't happen. I'm disappointed here in the South Alabama Jags, though. I took them plus 6.5. I thought they could potentially win the game straight up. Just didn't. Just game got away from them too early. Tulane made some plays when they had to. That's the one I'm real disappointed in. South Alabama not covering the 6.5, and really probably wasn't even that close. Then Florida State, this is one I got right. I took the Noles plus 2.5. They won straight up. We've talked about this game. Most impressive from week 1 for sure. Florida State felt very comfortable about them winning the ACC. But again, those are the picks from week 1. 3-4 in the week. Promise to be better this week. Like I said, give me a couple weeks to figure it out. Give me a couple weeks to get a feel for some team. I already feel a lot better after watching all 14 SEC teams this past week. But again, wrapping it up, lost TCU minus 20.5, won Tennessee minus 27.5. The Great White Buffalo guarantee of the week right there. Indiana plus 28.5, covered that. Lost South Carolina plus 2.5. Lost Illinois minus 9.5 versus Toledo. Illinois won the game, though. South Alabama, real disappointed in that one. Didn't cover the plus 6.5, but Florida State and the Noles got it done with a plus 2.5. We're 5-6 for the season. These next 2 weeks are going to be big. They're going to get us right back on track. So stick with me. Stick with me because you're going to get another Great White Buffalo guarantee of the week on Thursday. But that's it from this week's episode. We covered quite a bit. I mean, we went all the way back, reviewed week 1 for you as much as possible without it just being mundane stuff you couldn't hear with us coming back from the Labor Day trip the next day. We talked about the week 2 power rankings. Went through that. That's going to change each week. We got Cruz Oxenrider from Barstool Sports. He's going to be down there with all the other media people in Tuscaloosa this week. Should be a blast. Should be a very fun time in Tuscaloosa before that Texas game. Cruz will be down there. say hi to him at Innisfree if you're there. We talked about where I was right, where I was wrong. First time segment, that'll be a full-time segment on Monday's show all the time. Totally wrong on South Carolina. Wrong, underestimated Utah. Was right on the Alabama defense, though. They're going to be really good. Was right on LSU not being deep and having secondary problems. A couple others, but if you were paying attention, you heard the rest of them. Then we wrapped up to the Money Making Thursday. Went over those, went 3-4, 5-6 for the season. We're going to get better, guys. We're going to get better. We previewed a little bit some week 2 action in the SEC. A couple SEC teams going on the road, taking the band on the road. Remember, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, Auburn, Ole Miss, all taking the show on the road and at a conference action. How will they fare? SEC needs a big bounce back weekend. It was a disappointing weekend. SEC went 1-3 in their big games in week 1 with Tennessee, and that wasn't even the big four. I mean, Tennessee was favored by 27.5, with Tennessee really only getting it done against the other Power 5 team they faced. But hey, Thursday show's right around the corner. You know what that means. Money Making Thursday, giving you all my predictions for week 2 heading into the college football season. We'll talk about a bunch of other stuff too. We'll have some great guests. Leah Van, a Texas beat writer, is going to come on and join us. And then, I mean, that should be it. And also too, forgot, we got my guy. Hold on, let's look at the calendar real fast. Carter Carrolls from Gig'em 247 will also be joining us as well. So we're at the Texas side of things over from Leah Van. Used to cover LSU for the Advocate in Baton Rouge. She just moved over, Texas grad. She'll give us the feel in Austin heading into the big week 2 matchup with Sark and the boys heading to Tuscaloosa. And like I said, my guy, Carter Carrolls from Gig'em 247, gives the feel down in Aggie land if they head over to Miami in a big week 2 matchup that we'll figure out a lot for Texas A&M. But Thursday's episode is going to be a blast. It's going to be fun. Can't wait to give it to you. Hope you have a great rest of your week.